Okay, good morning, everybody.
We are live now, so we can start.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to this webinar on sustainable agriculture in Africa, themed African youth in sustainable agriculture, the obstacles and opportunities. We have quite a number of elite speakers who will be speaking today. But before we go into our presentation or introduce our panelists today, we have our father in the house, who is a professor in ESAFE, the Mohammed VI Polytechnic University, and person of Professor Mohammed Boulif, to open the floor for this forum. Boulif.
Okay, thank you very much, Femi. I would like to congratulate first the organizers of this forum. This is an excellent initiative, and I would like to thank you very much for having invited me to such a very important forum. What I would say is that we must recall that 60% of the arable land of the whole world will be located in Africa. This is something very important that we have to keep in mind. And from here to 2050, Africa will be hosting about a little bit over than 1 million inhabitants of the planet. So I think in order to respond and to work for the food security for its population, Africa and Africans will need to move ahead and start some good actions to prepare those for the future, for this challenging future. As you know, many African leaders in many of their meetings have produced resolutions for Africa, including intensifying the use of fertilizers, promoting sustainable development programs, and so on and so forth, which is very important. It is for us, and it is for you as young ambassadors and future leaders in Africa to implement and do the necessary work to bring these resolutions to fruition, to application on the real ground, So I think the most important resolution that was made by the African leaders was to intensify the use of fertilizers, to bring that use from what it was in the previous years, which I supposed that's what is said in the literature anyway, 8 kilos to the hectare, to about a 50 kilo to the hectare and maybe beyond. Well, this is important in terms of when we think about chemical fertilizers, which I would think that would not be very efficient and effective if the soil organic matter is not addressed. I still believe, from what I hear, from what I read, that African soils have been undergoing some types of mineral agriculture. That means extraction without any replenishment. We have been extracting the food, the agricultural products, without replenishing those nutrient resources of the soil. So in order for those chemical fertilizers to work well, we have to devise, we have to think about ways of increasing the soil organic matter by recycling, composting, the huge amounts of agricultural waste that is generated by the African population at the moment. We do not know how to valorize our organic waste. So it's very important that that organic waste should be composted and returned to the soil to replenish the soil fertility. Okay? However, this is not enough for me. I think young people, young agronomists, along with the decision makers in the different African countries, we have to work on production systems, crop rotation systems that are very well fit for African environments in order to preserve the soil fertility and the production capacity of crops. I said crop rotation is one. Second is crop protection using integrated approaches, not those fancy approaches that use pesticides and other chemicals, but real approaches that are thought by Africans for Africa, depending on the situations, the local situations, the local crops, the local pests, and the possibilities that are being offered locally. Okay. Instead of, yes, of course, these are things that we have to start with because we have to catch up. We have to catch up to cover that gap that separates the African agriculture from other developed agricultures around the world. We have to apply the science. And you people as future ambassadors will have to play a major role. I will not say a major role, I would say a vital role for African agriculture. So that is something that will lie upon our shoulders to move along that way, while in the meantime, we should not deprive ourselves from using the most modern techniques of precision agriculture and digital agriculture. I think we have the right and we have the obligation to do it while promoting our agricultural conservation methods locally to preserve our patrimonies and our heritage, our African heritage. We still can venture and use those methods of precision agriculture to back up our ways of doing in order to reach our endeavor, which is to make Africa autonomous, independent, prosperous, self-sufficient, relying on its daughters and sons. And thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Billy, for that powerful insight. It's something I believe everybody will take home after this, and for emphasizing that the key to sustainable agriculture in Africa is to key into localized production systems and technology inclusion by our youth. Thank you very much. So now we introducing the Sustainable Development Ambassadors to give us a brief introduction about sustainable development goals. So that was presented by Suleiman and Pascal. So Pascal, over to you.
Yo, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, yep, here we go. Sustainable development has been defined in different manner, and one of the most famous definition came from the Brundtland report. They state that sustainable development is development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. What does it mean? Sustainable development is calling us and reminding us our responsibility as human beings to take care of our needs, but also to think the land or the world that we're going to live for the next generation. That's why it can be explained in a three-dimensional approaches, such as society, environment, and economy. This work when we're talking about sustainable development. So here we have 17 goals and 69 and 169 targets that goes from no poverty to partnership for the goals. All of these goals are important for sustainable development. Maybe you are interested in the SDG number 1 or 2 or 3, but the most important thing is when you are working about sustainable development, to just not working on the society aspect or economic aspect, but you should work simultaneously in the both society aspect, environmental aspect, just to balance between them, and environment aspect too. Okay. And here we have the 5 P's. Maybe some of us can confund it or with the 5 P's of marketing mix, but here is the 5 P's of sustainable development, which go through planet to partnerships. For planet, what does it mean? Each of us has the responsibility to protect our planets and preserve it for future generations. And for people, the P of people mean that we should fight against poverty and try to end it, hunger. That's going to help us to raise dignity and equality for all people. And the P of prosperity is really important too, because it's going to help us to harmonize our life and be stable. And now we know the peace. Without peace, we cannot do anything, because in time of peace, we can try to preserve our planets and also try to end hunger. And partnership is very important between people and between a person who has not the same backgrounds or come from different areas of domains. Okay. So Sustainable Development Program UM60P is very important. UM60P, University Mohammed VI Polytechnic, puts sustainable development on the heart of their objectives, of their goals, because it is located in the green city of Ben Guerir. And one of their vision is to create and preserve the world for tomorrow to be better, where we don't find hunger, where we have good health, well-being, peace, and justice. Okay. And the mission of UM60P that are related to sustainable development can be explained in those ways, like training competent people for change. UM60P presently is training people for change. And that's one of the goal of SDG. It is the SDG number 4. And also UM60P try to share knowledge between people, whether you are coming from Sub-Saharan Africa or anywhere else in the world. UM60P give you the chance or the opportunity to work and learn about knowledge from others and different people. Okay. And the values can be explained in the ways that those values help us to fix it. Sorry, was very fast. I think there is a problem of connection, internet issue, but anyway, the values that UM60P are showing us is based on diversity. So each of us needs to be, even we are coming from Sub-Saharan Africa, I'm a good example of that, and many of our speakers also are not from Morocco, but we are sharing here different things, even knowledge, backgrounds, experience, and those help us to have an ethical approach and humanistic approach. The individual and collective also commitment is really important, because UM6B believe that even individually and collectively, when we bring each of us what we have, we can build a better world, a better Africa. And lastly, but not least, promotion of creation, innovation and excellence are the words that can summarize the values of UM6B. And each of all of these help UM6B to go through the way of sustainable development. So thank you. I will let my brother to go through the keys. Okay, the floor is yours. Can you unmute? Can you unmute yourself?
Okay. Hi everyone. My name is Sulaiman Bashir. I'm going to be sharing some key highlights on SDG, Sustainable Development Goals in Africa, and then where Africa stands as at 2020. Yeah, when we talk about Sustainable Development Goals, Africa is doing well relatively in just 3 out of the 17 SDG goals. For example, Africa has made progress only in 3 SDG goals. We have SDG 5, which is gender equality. We have SDG 15, which is life on land. And then we have SDG 13, which is action on climate. So in these 3 goals of sustainable development, Africa is doing relatively well compared to other members of the United Nations. Also, but it's quite painful that 14 out of the 17 goals are unlikely to be achieved by 2030 if rapid and unified action is not taken. Well, we should also take note that SDG performance in Africa is heterogeneous. This means that some countries are far ahead of others. You would see the chart here, it's like a scatter plot, but it's of course not a scatter plot. So here we are comparing the Mo Ibrahim Index, which measures the performances of government in Africa with the Africa SDG Index. So here on top, we see some countries such as the North African countries like Morocco, Tunisia, Algeria. They are really doing well compared to other countries such as we can see here Somalia and other countries. So which means, but basically the summary in this chart is to tell us that governance, there's no way we would achieve sustainable development goals if we don't have a stable government or a government who has that political will to implement all the SDG goals. We should also take note that Africa is one of the most vulnerable regions in terms of land degradation and desertification. We should also take note that 87% of the world's poorest are expected to live in sub-Saharan Africa by 2030 if urgent or drastic action is not taken. You would also be surprised, or let me say you'll be shocked, that 26 countries in Africa have more than 40% below the national poverty line. You will recall that the first SDG goal is focused on eradicating poverty. And then you would also be shocked to know that food insecurity in Africa persists at a rate of over 25%. Well, this is, we should give credit to the North African countries also. they have tried to reduce malnutrition rate to less than 7.5%, and they are still going to do more before 2030. Well, we should also know that this is a kind of credit for the African countries. Africa is the best performing in terms of CO2 emissions, but this is good news, but we would also see that it reflects in our productivity in Africa. The fact that we don't emit much CO2 tells on our economy. We would see that most of the things a lot of goods are imported to the continent from other countries. Well, in terms of gender equality, Africa is doing well. Like I said earlier, Africa leads the world in appointing female legislators, and the average in sub-Saharan Africa is higher than any other region. So now the question is, what's next? So yeah, what next? And the next thing is not to leave anyone behind. So this means that we collectively must act synergistically to implementing the SDG goals. You don't have to wait for the government before you act on your side. You can try to understand the 17 SDG goals, and you understand in your own capacity how you can make sure that we have a sustainable planet, we have a sustainable society, and we have a sustainable environment. Take, for example, if you make sure that you make sure you don't waste food. Maybe by not wasting food, those people that are suffering in one countryside would probably by action have access to food. And this program, this Sustainable Agriculture Forum, is one of the ways we are not leaving anyone behind. I would like to inform you that, like Professor Bouliv said earlier, 65% of global arable land is located in Africa. But it's quite paradoxical that Africa spends $35 billion yearly to import food to the continent. And this estimate is going to increase, is going to rise to $110 billion by 2025. So you could see, it could tell we have the largest percentage of arable land, but we spend huge amount of money to import food to the continent. So part of not leaving no one behind is to make sure that youth are engaged in advancing the SDG goal forward, to make sure that even by 2030, if not achieving all the goals, we would make sure that we make concerted effort to make sure that we make Africa a better place to live. And once again, I would like to appreciate your attendance, your presence in this event. Implore you to take a seat and get a cup of coffee and then enjoy the conversation. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Suleiman and Per, for that concise presentation. I believe each and every one of us we've listened to what SDG means, the Sustainable Development Goals, what it means, the status quo of Africa currently, our challenges, and where we are heading, and at what rate we are moving. So I just want you to take your seats, take your pen, and as you're listening to the panelists, I want you also think on how you can influence the promotion of sustainable development goals in Africa. What you can do in your own capacity. Suleiman mentioned that synergy. As agriculturists, as a scientist, as an industrialist, in your own capacity, what can you do to create that synergy for Africa to meet the sustainable development goals by 2030? So we move on now to the next item on our agenda, which is introduction of our panelists. So we have first for the presentation, Mr. Mohammed Mehdi. So he will be presenting, he will be giving us presentations based on biostimulants in agriculture. So Mr. Mehdi is an agricultural engineer from the Agronomic and Veterinary Institute, that's from Azan 2 Institute. He has gained professional experience in the field of agronomic applied research, irrigation systems design, and other related fields since 2014. So he's currently undergoing his PhD study at the Mohammed VI Polytechnic University, Pengeri, where he's currently working on developing a novel biostimulant from seaweeds to mitigate effect on of abiotic stress on plants and enhancing their nutrient use efficiency. We can see that his current field of research is a novel one, which will be very, very much important to promotion of indigenous production systems. So we give the floor now to Mr. Mehdi. Mr. Mehdi.
Well, thank you very much for inviting me today to this event. I felicitate the organizers for this initiative. Thank you for making confidence in my profile, because I know that there is other people which are more placed than me to talk about this subject. So to begin with, it may be worthy to say that among the big problems now facing humanity is food insecurity, which is triggered by political insecurity, instability, wars, and food distribution inequality, and also as an agronomist to the agricultural production reduction. This problem is triggered as an agronomist mainly by what we call low nutrient use efficiency of crops. As you see in this graph, that this efficiency starting from the 1980s is a little bit stable, and this means that even if we are adding more and more fertilizers, so the yields will be the same. So we are invited to think about other sustainable opportunities, or to solve this problem. Adding to this, abiotic stress, which is caused by droughts, cold, and salinity, is causing high losses to the world. Through the history, many solutions were proposed to deal with these problems, starting from the development of fertilizers for the integrated pest management, micro irrigation, currently sustainable intensification, soilless agriculture, and why not in the future urban agriculture and space farmer. In this scope, we are proposing this solution, which is the use of plant biostimulants to mitigate abiotic stress and enhance nutrient use efficiency, so we could enhance the yields with a sustainable way. But let's start by defining what is a biostimulant, because many of people are confusing between biostimulants, biofertilizers, and biopesticides. So biostimulants is a substance or a mixture of substances or a microorganism which is applied with the objective to mitigate abiotic stress and enhance nutrient use efficiency and enhance the quality of the final products and improve the rhizosphere nutrients availability. Biostimulants, if we took the example of seaweed extracts, as I'm working on this area, could give us give to the crops many advantages, as enhancing the fruit quality and also enhancing the yield and the growth parameters as a shoot and root, and also promoting the root zone area by promoting the microbial activity and enzymes which are playing a key role in the nutrient availability in the soil. So if we see the market biostimulants, it is a growing market with a compound annual growth rate expected to reach more than 11% in 2025 worldwide. Biostimulants are mainly used in Americas and Europe and also Asia. In Africa, they are in development. There is the market is expected to reach $278 million by 2022. If we take the example of USA, the main biostimulants used are seaweed extracts and acid-based biostimulants like humic and fulvic acids, and also we find microbial biostimulants, and there is other biostimulants as proteins and amino acids. So I think that I hope that within UM6P, as a researcher, as an agronomist, we could participate in this development by developing those biostimulants and participating in this sustainable intensification. And I thank again the organizers for their invitation and thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Mehdi, for that insightful presentation. And I think the presentation has emphasized the need for technology inclusion and adaptation for different local production systems. So now we'll move on now to the next speaker. And after we have all our panelists present, then we'll relay the questions and give answers to them. So we move on now to our next speaker. I like to call this speaker Madame Quinoa because she likes quinoa a lot. Forgive me, Manal, for that. So Manal is a research scientist. She currently at the moment 6 Polytechnic University here in Bengary. She holds a master's and PhD degree in plant genetics and plant breeding. So our scientific background is complemented with her entrepreneurial experience. Yes, she's the co-founder of a company called Amendi Foods that is currently centered on quinoa and adapting it to local food diets of Moroccans. And also, she also assists in farmers in quinoa production to design quinoa-based recipe and products adapted to Moroccan cookery and habits. So this business allows her to get in touch with farmers from different categories and enable her to understand the drivers for adoption or rejection of a newly introduced crop. So in summary, she's a scientist, she's an entrepreneur, and she's a perfect model of modern day scientist who blends between research and business. So welcome, let's welcome to the floor, Madam Dr. Manal. I like to call her Madam Tina, but Dr. Manal. So she will be giving us insights. So, Madam, over to you.
Thank you, Femi. Thank you. I would like to first thank the organizer, to thank the ESAFE team, and all the students behind this good and great forum. So I wish you a second, third, and the fourth, and an endless number of editions. And that's it. So I will share my screen. Mm-hmm. So after discussion with the organizing team, the thematic here is talking about the SDGs and also how their definition. But here at the agrobioscience, we focus on agriculture, and it's good to increase the awareness of students and also of faculty members about the importance or the effects of climate change and in general, and specifically the global warming on agriculture. And also the reason for that is that we need to start thinking quickly of solution, and also to think about innovative solution to solve new problems. So here it's good to increase the awareness, and this the only way to do this is to talk about the direct effects of global warming on crop growth. As we know, it affects the morphology of the plants, it affects the phenology, and also the plant physiology. The global warming has also has also indirect effect on soil, on decreasing the soil fertility. It has also effect on it increased the incidence of pests and disease. It increased the area, the saline area, and something which is very, very important and alarming is that it increased the incidence of drought seasons. As effects, we have it has also socioeconomic effects. It's increasing uncertainty, and also it's increasing food insecurity in the world, and also food demand. Global warming is not limited to agriculture. It goes beyond that. It goes to food trading and also policy. So and here we need to choose our position. Can we just stay and watch what's happening in the world and spend I don't know 50 or 60 or 80 years watching that without taking any actions, or we have to choose a battle, to choose the way, or to choose where we're gonna act to solve at least some of the problems. So here, my teams and my team and I, we choose our battle, and here we decided to work on the first 3 SDGs. So every action we have in our program, we work on no poverty, the first SDG. The second one is zero hunger, and the third one is good health and well-being. And to answer to those SDGs, we through our expertise is to we can say here. There's an example of biofortification, is the use of agrobiodiversity to increase the food content on minerals as example. So to do so, we need to do a step backward so we can go forward. So here we need to tap into diversity and for local and indigenous crop. And here let me take you to travel a trip that I did during my the preparation of my PhD, where I so through research I went to the Andean countries to dig into one of the most ancient crop, which is quinoa. So you know what is quinoa, and now everyone knows about quinoa, and thanks to many initiatives. The most important one is the International Year of Quinoa that was organized in 2013. And that helps to spread this crop not only in the Americas but all over the world. So for quinoa, it's why it gets this interest. It's because its plasticity, it adapts to different environment, but also it contributes to food security by its nutritional value, and it is also known by its tolerance to frost, salinity, and droughts. So at the university, we conducted many research to understand the value chain, and to understand the value chain so we can design meaningful actions. So here we worked on different axes. The first one is it contains all the agronomic aspects. The second one, it has a relation with the farmers, the consumers, and also the partners. And the third one is where we can say that where magic is happening is to develop new analytical approach by introducing a new way, like introducing precision agriculture as example. So another way to respond to the SDGs is to straighten our relation with the community where we are living. So here, and the only way here is to share their experience, their challenges, their daily life, and also to know the real suffering, so we can design good solutions. So from the Andes, I returned back to Africa. So the idea here is that Africa, we can say that we all know the challenges that we are living in Africa, but let's talk about the opportunities. So Africa, it has a lot of opportunities. It's an increasing population. We have heritage, very ancient heritage, and the most important thing is that we have a huge biodiversity that we can use to answer to the three first SDGs and also to the other SDGs. So here, Africa, it has some resilient crop that we can use for a sustainable food system, and also the crops that we have in Africa, they can contribute to food security not only in Africa but all over the world. So here we have many species, but as you know that Africa and as other parts of the world rely on few crops like rice, maize, cassava, and millets. But we still have more to explore in Africa to solve nutritional issues and also agronomic issues. So here I choose to specify to end my talk by talking about pulses. We know that Africa it's the center of diversity of many legumes. And for the legumes, they can be used in we have a huge diversity of uses and also huge genetic diversity. They contribute to, they improve the diet, and also they can improve the soil fertility and the organic matter content. And something which is important is that they can contribute in the income stability of the small farmers. So here, my last word is that we need to together we have to design. We have to design a human-centered decision. We have to put. We used to put in the near past. We used to put the human in the center. Now we need to put the planets, the human. It's an ecosystemic approach. We need to think about the ecosystem, not only human. At the end, we are not the center of the universe. We live together. We impact each other. The tree impacts us. The smallest bacteria and you know now the smallest virus in the world. It has changed our life. So we need to build synergic actions between sociologists, agroeconomists, plant scientists, food industrials to design a better future for Africans and also for all the humanity. And thank you. I thank again the organizers and all the ESAFE team.
Thank you very much, Manal, for that wonderful presentation. And this presentation is a perfect example of orphan crops, like or underdeveloped African crops. I believe we from Africa, we can take a very big lesson from quinoa. There are a lot of underdeveloped crops in Africa we can actually look into and adapt them to different local production systems. Again, thank you very much, Manal, for that great presentation. So we move on to our next panelist, in person of Karen Ayabe.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone.
Okay.
So
Good
it's
morning,
an interest.
Karen.
I'm glad to be here, and I'm glad that we're talking about sustainability and agriculture and youth, especially in Africa. So we cannot talk about sustainability without talking of agriculture. Why? Because we cannot talk about zero anchor. We cannot talk about poverty if we are not talking of agriculture. Because agriculture is the backbone of most economies in Africa, and that's the reality. But the biggest challenge is that, you see, if you look at the age of our farmers in Africa, it's quite sad that we average age is 60 years of the farmers. So the question is, where are our youths? We need to see the average age of farmers coming down. It's been quite long that farmers have been regarded as The old people are left for farming. So what I can say today is, that the gateway to food security in Africa is through youth. And the sooner we accept that, the sooner we appreciate that, the sooner we are getting close to food security in Africa. Why do we talk about youth being, the gateway to food security? One, because young people are very versatile. Secondly, young people are very risk takers. Young people are very, so hello, sorry, meaning that because young people are very young, energetic, versatile, and they're very risk takers. So these are the people that we need to look at. But the challenge is that young people are not going into agriculture. Why? Because the biggest challenge, especially in Africa, are lack of policies. Policies that will lure the young people, policies that will make the young people see the importance in agriculture. So we need to see, because agriculture has been considered, and it's mainly a sustainable, we're looking at agriculture in a sustainable way, but not as an agricultural or as an agribusiness way. So we need to change the mindset of the young people so that they start looking at agriculture in a very entrepreneurial manner. And I'm glad that one of the cast who came earlier, Manal, has looked at quinoa as an entrepreneurial. So we are looking at making agriculture an entrepreneurial activity so that the young people can start seeing the sense in it. So, we need to see, so the fact that agriculture has adopted technology, the fact that technology has been found to improve effectiveness and efficiency in most cases. So young people are very receptive to technology. That is the other thing. So as we move towards making a sustainable way among the young people, so we need to change this. So, but the challenge that comes with why youth are not engaging in agriculture, more so in Africa, is because we've talked about the land issues. The land actually belongs to my father or the clan. So it's very difficult for the young people to start getting into the family land and farm. The second one is once the young people have access to land, access to finances becomes another challenge. So we need to empower the young people in terms of finances. So an African government should need to really look into that. And I'm glad, for instance, my country, Kenya, has a very robust youth and women fund that is actually dedicated for young people and women so that they can be able to get into business. And we've seen quite a number of young people getting into agribusiness or agriculture because of this kind of finances. So in terms of land, we need to change our policies in Africa so that young people can get more access to land so that they can be able to farm. The other thing is, the markets in Africa are very it's not easy to understand the markets. They keep changing. And the changing is because mainly almost 60% or 70% are dependent on we are depending on rain-fed. So, and given that we have climate change, the realities of climate change are here with us. So planning has become a challenge. But, the coming up of technologies say that we have, access to insurance to cover us against adverse effects of climate change, access to mobile technologies or, applications that are able to allow farmers to be able to understand the markets or get the markets before they started farming. So young people are really, the change that we need to see in Africa when it comes to agriculture. And I'm glad that I've been among some of the participants under institutions such as International Institute for Tropical Agriculture, where they're financing young people to be able to, conduct research, and that are able to, when you look at research, that you can scale up to entrepreneurial activities. So these are really important that we need to see, but we need to see more policies being implemented. We need to see more policies being brought up in Africa that allows we, the young people, to get into farming. We need to change our attitude. And the way we can change our attitude is we need to invest more in educating the young people on the importance of agriculture as a livelihood, as a business, as a career. So once we change all that, things will become more better.
Oh, I think she has a kind of connection problem. Okay, I think we'll move on to the next panelist now, in person of Toyib Aremu. So Toyib Aremu is currently holds a master's degree in sustainable development from the University of Ibadan in Nigeria. He's currently a graduate student at the School of Agriculture at the Mohammed VI Polytechnic University in Benghazi, Morocco. Toyib is passionate about using research to influence agricultural policy making in Africa. So let's welcome on board Mr. Toyib Aremu. Mr. Toyib?
All right. Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me? All right. Okay, that's good. Well, let me quickly warn you that, well, I hope not, but in the middle of my presentation, I may be having some internet connection like the others. I don't know what is going on today, but I've been out and trying to log into the platform. So without much ado, thank you so much, Femi, for the introduction. And also, I thank the organizers of this event for inviting me. I've been asked this morning to quickly speak about the status of sustainability in African agriculture. And thankfully, the organizers in their introduction have helped me to create some background upon which I'm going to speak. And I think it's the same for the previous speakers who have spoken ahead of me, especially I was listening to Manal too during our presentation before the internet went rogue. With regards to issues of sustainable agriculture, one thing I want to quickly say is that when we are talking about sustainability, there are three pillars of sustainable development, or sustainability if you like. We will be talking about the economic pillar of sustainability, the social pillar of sustainability, and environmental pillar. So anything you are attaching sustainability to, these three pillars would have to come together in order for you to say this is sustainable. So take, for example, when it comes to agriculture, when we are talking about economic sustainability, we are saying that the farmers, the smallholder farmers or big farmers, if you like, who are involved in farming, they are economically sustainable. They shift from maybe low income to being comfortable in their livelihood. When we say social sustainability, we mean that these farmers are able, for example, to access by their own quality lifestyle, such as maybe accessing healthcare or being able to send their children to school. So when it comes to environmental aspects in sustainable agriculture, we are talking about not finishing up the resource, to say it in a layman way, so that the coming generation can have access to it. Now, when we are talking about sustainable agriculture, what are the current challenges that face us? Some of them have been said, but I'll quickly go through these challenges so that we can all know what challenges we currently face. Globally, there are about over 7 billion people, but by 2030, we'll have about 9 billion, and by 2050, we'll have like 10 billion people on the planet. And we know that as population increases, we need to also produce more food to be able to feed this population. However, we are faced with challenges like water scarcity, Take, for example, Egypt. Egypt was not able to continue as the first largest producer of rice on the continent. They had to cut down on their use of water in rice production, and this is because of the water scarcity. Generally, in Africa, we use our irrigation is between 1 to 4%. We irrigate only about 1 to 4% of our land, and we need water in order for us to produce food that will feed our population. I'm aware also that Morocco is currently facing challenge with regards to the dam, the water storage, because there has been a challenge with rainfall recently. Also, we have the problem of soil degradation. Our soil, we have been, like Professor Believe said during his introduction, we have been using these soils without replenishing them. There is also the ecosystem stress. We are going beyond the ecosystem boundaries in our activities, particularly in farming. There also, I hope when we talk about agriculture, we are not limiting the discussion only to farming, because in agriculture we have farming, we have fishing, we have other aspects like forestry and the rest. So there are challenges with regards to the decreasing biodiversity in this aspect too. And there is also the challenge of greenhouse gas. Bashir, when he was talking, talked about the fact that Africa is not generating as much greenhouse gas compared to other places. And this is one thing that I would like to stress, because when people talk about greenhouse gas mitigation, the question to be asked is that, is Africa actually contributing as much as the world would like us to believe to the greenhouse gas emission? And also, when it comes to agriculture, what is the percentage of agriculture's contribution to greenhouse gas emission? So that when we are trying to look for a way to reduce greenhouse gas, we know where to actually focus our attention on. Agriculture, I think, contributes about between 6 to 10, I'm not sure exactly now, to annual greenhouse gas emission. As was said also by maybe Bashir or Professor Believe, there is the challenge of food loss. 1/3 of our food is wasted. In Africa or in developing country, the challenge is that before it even gets to where you sell them, we lose this food because of we don't have proper storage system. So these are the challenges, some of the challenges that we are facing. We also see that about 80% of the food that we consume in Africa is produced by smallholder farmers. However, we see that smallholder farmers are the poorest in our communities. They are the poorest amongst us. Globally, there are about 815 poor people. In Africa, we have like half of the population facing from medium to severe cases of food insecurity. Now, the new agenda, the Sustainable Development Goals, or if you like, the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, is looking at how do we not leave anybody behind. Even in the midst of this current discussion of how we would not leave anybody behind, we are faced with some current political challenges such as trade protectionism and anti-globalism. And if there is one lesson for agriculture enthusiasts to take away from this challenge of COVID-19, is that there is a need for us to shift our thinking from what we know, that we need economy of scale, or in terms of cooperative advantage. When COVID-19 started, I'm aware that countries that were known to produce a lot of rice, they started to shut down their border against exporting rice, because they cannot. What if we have COVID-19 and it lasts for about 3 years? What would happen to our food system? These are the kind of discussions that we need to be looking at. Do we continue to say that we are producing economy of scale and we have area of advantage, like, okay, Nigeria should focus only on cocoa, or it should focus only on yam, or it should focus only on tomatoes? Are we going to diversify our food production, or we are going to maintain the current discussion on comparative advantage? As was said, Africa imports a lot of food, and this is going to increase except if we do something different. There's also the challenge with farming in the sense that there is a risk in farming, and this is affecting, for example, farmers. If farmers approach banks and they say they want to lend money, they will not lend them because agriculture is seen as a risky business. And this is one of the reasons why youth, because I know this discussion is meant to focus on you, this is why youth are not really particularly interested in agriculture, because they don't have the resources to engage in farming. Apart from this, youth also see that agriculture is not profitable, and this is the truth, because there have been some studies that have been conducted with regards to agriculture, and it was found that even when farmers apply fertilizer, applying fertilizer does not guarantee profitability in agriculture. So maybe we would start to look at how we can mitigate risk when it comes to farming. One of the examples of this is a project that I was once involved in Rwanda, which is about climate resilience. How do we ensure that farmers can mitigate their risk when it comes to climate change? By providing, for example, post-harvest loss prevention for them, by providing them with services like climate information, so that farmers can be aware that, oh, by this time we are going to have drought and I need to invest on for example, irrigation facility. One of the things we would need to do, of course, is to increase our irrigation. Like I said, it's currently between 1 to 4% of all our land. Moving forward, what should we do with regards to all of these challenges? One of the things that we need to do, of course, is to develop our rural areas if we are going to achieve sustainability. Like I said, sustainable development or sustainability in agriculture is not only about the environment. Of course, we need to think about the environment, but what about the people that are involved in the farming, that is the farmers? So one of the things is to provide the basic need for these people, because one of the things that make youth to run away from the rural areas, as it was said in the introduction, the average age of farming is increasing, and this is a challenge. So we need to see how to attract you. And one of the ways is to make, for example, connectivity to be in the rural area. People need to have access to internet facility. You need to provide good road and hospital for them. Another thing that we can look at to achieve sustainability in agriculture is to look at deeply the importance of value addition. Ghana and Ivory Coast are the largest producers of cocoa in the whole world. They are the first two. But look at what the benefit is. The smallholder farmers that are producing this cocoa, how much benefit are they getting? They sell this cocoa at cheap prices, whereas we import the chocolate back into Africa at exorbitant prices. And there is also the challenge of middlemen. The middlemen take almost all the money away from the smallholder. They are benefiting even more than the smallholder farmer who are in the sun, in the rain, producing this food. So maybe we need to actually exclude the middlemen in this discussion and connect the farmer directly to those who are buying the product from them. Another thing we need to look at is there's a need for us to start the discussion on new forms of financing. I'm aware that in Nigeria, for example, there is a rise in discussion, or there is an increase in the or shift towards crowdfunding in agriculture. People come together, they say, okay, we are going to need, for example, $1 trillion, just for an example. If you are interested, you can contribute so, and when we are done with this cycle, you are going to get this benefit. Maybe this kind of private sector financing would be an alternative to subsidy, which many people have gone against. Of course, we know that subsidy happens in Europe and the Americas, but when it comes to Africa, we see that there's a lot of politics and inefficiency with regards to subsidy. Another challenge with subsidy is the fact that government is spending hugely, which is not sustainable. Another way that we need to look at to achieve sustainability in agriculture is with regards to diversification. We have climate shock. We have a lot of challenges that farmers face. And because there is no diversification, maybe a farmer is only growing maize. That is one of the challenges. Once there is a drought with regards to maize, he loses all sorts of his income. What about if this farmer actually has a mix in income, a mix source of income, like maybe as he's planting his maize, he also has vegetable, or as he's planting his maize, he also have some livestock that he can depend on, so that if one does not work, the other will work. Or if he even has off-farm employment, so maybe he's a trader, or maybe he's a carpenter, or he's a hairdresser, or anything. So there is a need for us to diversify the income of people in the rural areas. Also, there is a need for us to involve the rural people we are planning for. There is new discussion with regards to participatory governance now, in terms of multi-stakeholder approach to solving the challenges. You cannot sit in the city and expect that you can plan for people who are experiencing what you are trying to solve. You need to involve the farmer, the youth in this case too, because we are trying to attract them. You need to, it's like me coming to your house, you invite me as a guest, but you didn't ask me, what do I eat or what do I not eat? If you put fish meal on the table, it is as good as not serving me because I don't eat fish. The point I'm trying to make is that it is important for us to invite the people we are trying to help to the discussion table, so that we can hear their views and be able to target programs that work for them. Without taking much of your time, I just want to leave you with some of my own thoughts. What do we need to be thinking about going forward? I would ask first that, is there one way to sustainability? Well, I will leave you to answer that, if there is only one way to achieving sustainability in agriculture. The second thought or parting message is that for farming, do we go completely organic, or we go completely conventional in terms of the commercial farms? Do we say we want to rely on smallholder system or commercial farms? That is one of the discussions that we need to be having, or one of the things that we need to be thinking about. I've heard people talk about Africa having more than 60% of uncultivated arable land. Do we go on sustainable intensification, or we extensify our production? Are we going to continue to expand the land in which we are cultivating, or we are going to remain on the few land that we have but producing more out of it? These are the kind of sustainability questions that should be going on in our minds. In terms of the animal production system and the discussion about human diet, are we shifting completely to plant-based diets, or we are going to continue with our meat-based diet? Because these are one of the current sustainability discussion. Also, are we going to continue to rely on government subsidy, or we are going to look for a more sustainable form of financing, or allow the market to dictate in terms of the market? Are we going to allow the market to dictate, or we are going to say the government should dictate the price? Also, there is a rise, and when we are talking about youth, this affects the youth a lot because there's a lot of technology and innovation attached to it. Are we going to shift completely to producing our food in the urban area in terms of urban agriculture, or we are going to continue to rely on rural agriculture, or can we even come to merge these two systems together? And lastly, do we continue to hold our belief? Like I said, COVID-19 has taught us a lot with regards to comparative advantage, or having to produce all the food that you consume. Like Sulaiman said when he was talking, Africa imports, as at 2013, about over 300 billion of food is the size of African market, which is going to maybe increase to 1 trillion by 2050 or so, based on prediction. Are we going to actually focus on comparative advantage and producing only cocoa, or we are going to produce all the food crops that we consume? I leave you with these thoughts, which are the important message, the important points that we need to be raising and discussing about when it comes to sustainability in the agriculture sector. And I thank you so much for the attention.
Well, thank you very much for that important and powerful presentation. And in your presentation, you highlighted the global trade, diversity. You highlighted value chain, shortening the value chain, shortening the market. You also highlighted participatory research or participatory action plans for us to involve smallholder farmers, for us to involve important stakeholders in agriculture. Thank you very much for the presentation. So we move on now to our last panelist for the day, in a person of Muna Yasser. So Muna is currently a master's student in biotechnology and agrobiosciences at the Mohammed VI Polytechnic University, where she specializes in valorization of plant biomolecules. She holds a bachelor's degree in plant biotechnology from University Qadi Ayad in Marrakesh. Muna has garnered experience working on assessment of potential using of rhizobium strains to control Orobanche crenata at INRA, Rabat. She has worked on olive trees in Florence from the World Collection of Tassaut at INRA, also in Marrakesh. She currently serves as the president of Bureau d'Etudiants, as the student body at the Mohammed VI Polytechnic University, representing ESAFE. So let's welcome on board Muna.
Thank you, Femi. Thank you for inviting me to be part of this forum, the first version, and inshallah, second and third, and many more to come. So for my part, I'm going to be speaking about biotechnology in Africa in the case of agriculture. So first of all, I'm going to be defining the term of biotechnology, which has evolved by, years and years. And according to the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations and the Convention of Biological Diversity, they define biotechnology as any technological application that uses biological systems, living organisms, or its derivatives to make or modify products or processes for specific use. So, in general, biotechnology is any use of organisms or their components in industrial, medical, agriculture, and environmental engineering or its processes. So if you ask why should we be interested in biotechnology in Africa, especially in the sector of agriculture, I will be naming a few challenges that Toyib has already mentioned, such as the smallholders being old, and they are responsible for producing 3 out of 4 of the whole food that Africa produces. The level of yields have stagnated below average for years now, and it should be worked on to be able to, so we can be able to feed the population of Africa, if not the population of the world. And obviously, production faces many challenges, such as plant diseases, scarce rain, post-harvest losses, and limited access to appropriate agriculture technologies. The main problem with biotechnology in Africa is that these technologies and their products are mostly confined to research projects and can be used by farmers unless they are combined with policy measures, which are referred to as national biosafety frameworks. So while various biotechnologies can minimize the challenges faced in agriculture, the biosafety measures implementations, especially the risk assessment, seems to focus on the generally modified organisms and its products, which are developed through more advanced biotechnologies that include tissue culture, molecular marker technology, and genetic engineering. So generally, these technologies require laboratories and significant level of skill to perform. So the biosafety measures, they should cover broad biotechnology research applications, whereas when we look at the policies that are made, we find them focusing mainly on genetically modified organisms. So in 2017, concerning this, the Society of Toxicology reports that both modern biotechnology, such as genetic engineering, and traditional techniques commonly used, such as crossbreeding with wild counterparts, may confer the same kind of risks, but which many people generally do not know about. So as of 2018, only 18, as of 2019, sorry, only 18 countries in Africa have biosafety legislation in place, and the majority of these were passed in the period 2006 to 2010. With general regional trading blocks in sub-Saharan Africa, frameworks of action for biotechnology require collective understanding among member states and regional framework on biosafety, while many regions have made attempts to foster a united framework, none have progressed beyond mere intentions. So these African countries, they have benefited, however, from regional and sub-regional organizations and networks, which have helped to develop the agriculture research for development. And I can name few of these organizations, such as CGIAR, ICRISAT, International Potato Center, ICARDA, and so on. So other than the Republic of South Africa, which is like it sits at the top of all African countries. It spends like really the most on biotechnology, and it follows it Nigeria, Kenya, Ghana, and Uganda. But these numbers, like, they show that even that with like these countries being placed as the strongest in Africa when working for the biotechnology, it just spends modest amounts on biotechnology. So South Africa is by far the dominant genetically modified producer, and it accounts for 82% of the field trials, which means that in the future they can start commercializing their products. But we can also find countries, even though they don't rank as the toppest or the strongest of the countries. We can find, for example, Egypt, that work on genetically modified maize, and Burkina Faso, that work on genetically modified cotton, which they name them BT maize and BT cotton, and they are going to start commercializing them soon. So generally, biotechnologies have revolutionized farming and industrial economies. Like, we can see the example of the West, the United States, and so on, and they have the potential to reduce food deficits making farming more it will pay more money. So one of the questions that arises is, will this implementing biotechnology and using it in producing the crops, will it be more appealing to the youth as it will make more money? Will using biotechnology help with the sustainability, or will it just use conventional agriculture and ruin more of the lands that we have in Africa? So, I mean, the sustainable agriculture should be more about finding a middle ground between conventional agriculture and using biotechnology. Also, taking consideration the fact that the earth have taken too much, and we should just treat it kindly so it can produce for us and produce for the generations to come. And thank you.
Thank you very much, Muna, for the exposition on biotechnology, its uses, a current position we are in Africa. And I'm happy that countries like Burkina Faso and Egypt already started tapping into the advantages of biotechnology. So now we move on to our questions for the participant. So Muna, let's start from you. So
Okay.
this question will be answered by all our participants. And the question is, in your own experience, why do you think youths are discouraged from agriculture, from practicing agriculture in Africa?
Well, as Karen said, mostly like the youth don't have the money to go and to get their own lands and start their own projects. So they have to go under the wing of the people that have been there before them, like their parents, their grandparents, if they have a family business. So they should really abide by the older people rules. And sometimes with the youth being a bit more free thinking and they're willing to take more risks, it just is a bit frustrating to be like under the wing of the older people, even though they have their own thoughts, they have their own potential, but they just can't show it. And like Toib said and like Karen said, the government, the fundings is not really there. It's really complicated for young people to get funds and to get their own lands, to start business, to start their projects. So it's kind of, I think that's why it's a bit discouraging.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Muna. Mehdi, in your own experience, why do you think the youth are discouraged from venturing into agriculture in Africa?
I think that there is huge opportunities for youth in Africa to develop the sector of biostimulants. If we took the example of Morocco, we have more than 3,500 kilometers of sea coasts, in which there is more than 500 species of seaweeds which are mainly not valorized. So if we could, as youths, valorize those seaweeds in agriculture by developing seaweed extracts, it would be a huge opportunity. Also, now sub-Saharan Africa is with the fastest growth in matter of global waste, and humic and fulvic acids are extracted from green waste. So there is an opportunity for us to develop some startups in this sector of biostimulants. Adding to that, in Africa in general, in sub-Saharan Africa, there is some crops which are growing in nature in harsh conditions, and this may be due to the microbiota existing in these areas. So if we could inoculate those microbes and develop them in agriculture, it is also another opportunity. I will also seize the opportunity to respond to a question which was made by our participants, which is why we are seeing in the market biostimulants with less purity, quality, and the effects which is not harmonized from a condition. So another one, what are the areas which we have to dig in research to solve this problem? I do agree with this participant. Now companies are releasing in the market many products, but most of them are with low quality. So I think, as an agronomist, as a PhD student, that we have to dig deeply in trying to understand the mechanism of action of these biostimulants, because if we could know what is the molecule or the molecules responsible for a positive effect on a plant or on a crop, we could develop those biostimulants to be more effective. And also we have to understand how we are seeing this change from a condition to another. We have to dig deeply to understand why this, to try to harmonize the effects of these biostimulants. Adding to this, that regulation of biostimulant sector is very primordial. Now, the only organism in the world which regulated the biostimulant sector the last year was the European Union, and they made in this regulation that the company should the claimed effects should be seen by the user, and this would help us to eliminate all these products with low quality, and to have in the market only the products with the high quality. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mehdi. And Toib, your opinion on why youths are discouraged in venturing into agriculture in Africa?
All right, thank you. In my own experience and from what I've read and studied, one thing I can say is that resources is very much important for youth to be actually attracted. It's like a pull factor. When there is resources, youth. I know what you're asking me is that what discourages, but a lot of the speakers have talked about what the challenges are. So what can we do to attract instead the youth into agriculture? And I would say that we should provide the resources for that the youth need, like land. You know, there is the challenge of title and deeds in Africa, you know, and many of the youths that are involved in agriculture, they are involved because someone in their family, maybe their grandmother or their mother or father was involved in agriculture. So we need to provide resources for youth to be able to be attracted to agriculture. And there is a gender aspect to this too. We notice that far more than the men in Africa, we see that even though women are more involved in agriculture, they don't own most of the land. So we need to see how we can change this narrative such that the women who are interested in agriculture can actually be given that opportunity in terms of having access to the resources. The second thing I want to say is that agriculture needs to move from a thing that I do as a pastime, as a thing of, passion is needed, but agriculture needs to move. And this is something that is established, that youth, when they go into agriculture, they go there because they want to make profit. So how can we shift from farming because it is a pastime to farming because it is a business, like moving to agribusiness? These are the things that can attract the youth into agriculture. And lastly, I just want to say that if we all want to attract youth to agriculture, we need to change our narrative about how we see agriculture. What do I mean by this? In our universities, if you hear somebody studying agriculture, sometimes you say, why is this person into agriculture? You see them, quote and unquote, as a failure, like it is the last resort. From where I come from, when you don't get medicine or you don't get pharmacy, then your last resort is to apply to agriculture. We need to change it. People need to be intentional about studying agriculture, and these are the things that would attract when we change the narrative about how we see agriculture. these are some of the things that would attract the youth into the space. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Toyib. And Manal, in your experience, I know you have experience working with youth and people. What do you think discourage youth from participating in agriculture in Africa?
First thing that was mentioned with by Toyib is the social value that we give to people who are studying agriculture. That's first. And thing is that we need to reinforce education in agriculture, and also build new curriculum that will include precision agriculture, that will include new tools in agriculture faculties or universities. And something I believe it is important to develop the extra curriculum of the students, and passion is important. And getting paid from its passion is something which is very, we feel the joy and the happiness when we do something with love. So I believe that encouraging entrepreneurship in our universities, it will help to solve problems, and also to open to students a door of innovation, and also to respond to specific questions by using entrepreneurial tools. So discovering the community, getting in touch with farmers and with women working in agriculture, we can bring appropriate response using entrepreneurship. So yes, I believe that we need to the students, or the student need to develop its extra curriculum activities.
Okay, thank you very much, Anna, for the comment. I know very well that Karen has a rich experience in working in Kenya over 10 years, so that's massive. So, Karen, in your own experience, what do you think is discouraging youth from participating in agriculture in Africa?
That of course my colleagues have spoken. Those are the really key challenges. But one thing in my life of working, I think the main critical thing, especially the young people, is lack of information. You see, agriculture or farming is a factor of many parameters that are sometimes very difficult to determine, especially at the start of the farming. So as you say, it's a very risky business because of the many parameters that defines it that are very difficult to determine at the beginning. So what many people, especially the young people, go into is when they go into farming or into agriculture without this information. So, and it's a very patient, I could say, it's a very patient kind of entrepreneurial activity. Because let's talk, for instance, you're farming cabbages. Cabbages will take you about 3 months. So you have to be patient for 3 months. In that 3 months, you don't know what will come in your farming, because you might wake up today and the following day in the morning, you find your cabbages has been wiped out by maybe fungal disease. So the challenge is when the young people are not empowered enough, when young people are not given that awareness to understand critical aspects that goes into agriculture, it demoralizes them for the few that try to venture in. And because the few that try to venture in, once they fail, it becomes a replicated kind of a thing. So they say, farming is not attractive, agribusiness is not interesting. So that is the biggest challenge on top of the other social factors that Manal has talked about in terms of land, resources. But when we talk about land, sometimes we find some government give out land. When we talk about some finances, we've found a lot of partnership between governmental and non-governmental and development partners that have put a lot of resources into empowering the young people with finances so that they go into agribusiness. But I think what we are still lacking in is that information. And farming is not something, or growing wheat is not something that we will go into class and learn in today. It's an experience that you have to encounter. And your farming today will not be the same experience of your farming tomorrow. So in my own point of view, I feel like the inadequacy of information is the biggest impediment to young people going into agriculture, especially as an enterprise or as an entrepreneurial kind of. So I would beseech the policymakers, I would beseech maybe the development partners, that they really look into empowering young people with more information, with more enticing kind of awareness that gives them. Secondly, is that young people love technology, and we need to invest more in technological aspects that goes into farming. And I wouldn't want to talk much about that because much has been talked about technology and agribusiness, technology and farming and all that. But I think we need to get back and give the young people, empower the young people with information, adequate information, trainings, adequate trainings that are able to understand the dimensions that cuts across when you talk about agribusiness or agriculture in totality. So when we get to the bottom line of that, then we are able to go back now to the drawing board then and say, yes, we have issues with land. We have this land, we have issues with finances. How can we sort with that? We have issues with markets. How can we sort that? But before we empower young people with information, all these investment might not yield much in the nearest. Yes, so that is my thought.
Okay, thank you very much, Karen, for that. Thank you. So now we move on to questions now, and now we have a comment from Nancy Kadenyi. Said, "I strongly agree. Food security can really be achieved through the youth via various innovative ideas. It is only a matter of we, the youth, seeing farming as a cool business and as a job." So thank you very much, Nancy, for that comment. So we move on now to our next question, which is for Toib. It says, what are the reasons for the contest between education and practice in agriculture? What are the reasons why people who study agriculture do not have that stimulus to practice agriculture?
All right. Thank you, Femi, for the question. To the questioner too, as Manala said, there's a need for us to do like an overhaul when it comes to what we have in our curriculum. The challenges of 1960 is not the challenge of 2020. So we need to look at what we are teaching students. Are we teaching them to be independent, or we are teaching them just to remember what we teach them? So when you are studying agriculture, you are studying agriculture, there is an agribusiness component to it. And this is something that we have stressed over and over again. There is a need for us to include the business aspect of it. And this is not about theory. By taking students out on the field, making them connect with people who are successful and asking them questions, how did you get to this point? What are the challenges that I should look forward to? Because agriculture is not a smooth ride. It's not something that you start. And this is one thing that should be noted too. People who go into agriculture for quick win, they may be discouraged quickly and they will go out of the business. So these are the things that we need to look at. People who are studying agriculture should be empowered so that when they go out, they can be in. And this goes for even other courses that we are teaching in Africa, not just the theory, but to incorporate the practice into it. And also it is important because what is common is that only or mainly PhD, people who have PhD come into classroom to teach. There may be a need for us to invite even a farmer who cannot speak, because our understanding of what literacy means, I think, is maybe flawed. A farmer who has 30 years of experience has something to offer, but because he doesn't have a PhD, we don't give him that platform to say, oh, this is how you do it. And that is talking about indigenous knowledge, which most time goes away. We don't take advantage of indigenous knowledge when it comes to farming. So We may also need to include people with experience, but not necessarily having a PhD in our teaching, inviting them for a session, come and share your experience with students so that we can know it's not just about what is written in book, but what is really happening in the real life. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Toib, for that. And also, in addition to what Toib said, I also think the inclusion of a farming school will be very, very important. If our students can be invited to farmers' farms, and we have a farming school where students can be educated on the need and the importance of venturing into agriculture, the business of it, the technicalities, and all other related things to help prepare the students for good life in agriculture. So I'll move on to the next question now, and I have this for Manal and for Karen. It says, do African youths today, do they have the required skills for sustainable agriculture? So I will start with Manal. Do you think African youths today have the required tools to venture into sustainable agriculture?
We have only the will to do that. We still don't have all the skills, in my opinion. We talked about schools, Toyib talked about the indigenous inheritance, but we still need to develop a lot in our education system in agriculture, in our, I can say, even in our policies. If we talk about financing and access to money to develop business in agriculture. So if African today have the required skills, I can say no. So this is what the UM6P is doing, is building the future leaders through education. And this is the mission of ESAFE, is educating people in agriculture, so we can bring from Africa to Africa new leaders that have the skills to bring new ideas to develop agriculture. That's my. It's no. So this is something that we are building now. So.
Thank you very much, Manal. Karen.
Yes, I tend to agree with Manal that yes, we do not have the necessary or the requisite skills, but before we even talk about the skills about the youth, we need to change the perception. So the question we should be asking ourselves is, do we have the will, as Manal say, or do our youths have this perception, or the right perception towards agriculture? So for us to be able to talk about the skills and all that, we need to change that attitude. We need to transform our perception so that we can start now. Once we have the right perception towards sustainable agriculture, then we can start imparting the necessary skills, the requisite skills that they can make farming a profitable or a business that the young people wants to, would say, yeah, what career are you doing? I'm saying, I'm a full-time farmer. With all the confidence, with all, the pride. So we need to move together.
Thank you very much.
Just to add a word, Femi, if it's allowed, can I add a word? A personal experience that happened to me. After my PhD, I spent 2 years working not as a farmer. I don't have the expertise of a farmer, but like a pseudo farmers in the company that I co-found. And each time I'm talking to a consumer and like trying to sell to him quinoa, he tell me, "What are you doing in your life?" And I'm saying, "I have a PhD and I'm working on a quinoa project." I start to explain to him and said, "Go try to find something else. It's not something good that you are losing your time." And I was like, "Okay, is this a way? Is this?" Are they encouraging me in this way, or this is just the perception is very, very bad. So we need to change the perception, not only for the students, but also the families, the parents of the students. So you're wasting time doing this. That's the.
Wow. Thank you. Wow. So we have a question from one of our participants, Nancy Kadenyi, and the question is, can organic farming and adoption of indigenous crops and methods of farming reach the growing population to enhance sustainable farming without jeopardizing the existing resources? I think she's just asking about if we adopt indigenous crops and adopt organic farming. Hope it will not jeopardize the existing resources we have currently in agriculture. So I'll leave this question to Toyib and Manal to answer. So Toyib.
All right. Thank you so much, Nancy, for your question. This is interestingly a question that every time it confronts me. And what I see there is that, like I said in my presentation, there is no one answer to get to sustainability. That's just, I didn't want to come as choosing for you, but the answer is that there is no one path that leads to sustainability. There are researches that are saying that organic agriculture has benefits. Yes, in terms of soil health, in terms of diet, yes, there are a lot of benefits to organic farming. But when it comes to the profitability to the farmer, and in terms of scaling, can we feed the population only by adopting organic farming? I would not tell you yes or no, but look at what the researchers are saying. There's currently, I think recently, maybe a week ago, there was a paper in Nature that assessed like 16 countries in sub-Saharan Africa regarding conservation agriculture. And what they came up with is that organic agriculture does not significantly improve the livelihoods of, that's just the summary of the research. I'm not trying to tell you, oh, organic agriculture is bad, or oh, conventional farming is what we should choose. But why can't we come together and say, okay, we are going to merge organic agriculture with conventional agriculture? There is a saying in my language. We say that that means that when you have when you have a stomach ache, the answer to it is not to cut off your head. If we are saying there is a problem with conventional farming in terms of use of fertilizer, why don't we solve those problems? Why do we say that just leave conventional farming totally and move directly into organic agriculture when we have a lot of people? Currently, there are over 800 million people that are facing severe cases of food insecurity. So if we just migrate into organic agriculture, which we don't have the necessary, as I speak now, we don't have the necessary resources to scale it up to feed the population. The conventional agriculture, which is using mineral fertilizer, currently feeds about half of the population. If we were not using conventional farming in terms of mineral fertilizer, we will only be able to feed 2 to 3 billion out of the 7 billion people that we have on the planet. So my answer to you is that we should not stick to one method when we are talking about feeding the population. Everyone needs to come to the table and say, okay, this is what I feel is wrong in conventional agriculture. Let's try to mitigate the greenhouse gas emission, for example. And if everyone works together to make the system efficient and sustainable, then we'll be able to feed the population. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Saib. Mana?
Yes, by bringing everything to table, as a crop scientist, I can say that Africa is full of immense diversity and of traditional food crops, which have been consumed a long time ago, but they are under utilized, and we can say also under researched. So by developing research and innovation in that type of area, it could be very rewarding in terms of scientific, social, and also economic. We can have also economic outcomes. So bringing together organic farming and also developing of indigenous crop may be one part of the solution. And also we need to bring also policy and bring also other entities, entities from the society.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mana, for your comment. And we have a question from Moha Ferahi. Said, what are the ways to have a sustainable agriculture development where we can reach food security? Okay, ways to engage in sustainable agriculture and at the same time meeting food security. I'll leave this question to Karen. Karen.
I don't think there's like a way that we can say these are the ways that we need to have for us to be able to have a sustainable agriculture. As Toyib says, it should be more of an hybrid kind of a system, so that we're able to see what fits into us. So there are no, like straight way that we have to say that this is the way that we have to follow. But as we discuss, one of the ways to have a sustainable agriculture is ensuring that youths are engaged in agriculture, because youth are very energetic, they're very versatile, they are technological receptive. So for us to be able to say we will be realizing sustainable agriculture in the near future is when now we lower the age of the farmers from 60 to something like 35. Then that it should be a one way in which we will realize our sustainable agriculture. So it's a more of an hybrid system that involves a lot of issues that brings together for us to achieve that. Yes.
Okay, thank you very much, Muna.
So for that question, I think that the integrated method is the best to have both the sustainable goals that we strive for and to feed the populations that are supposed to be fed. For example, like we can use biofertilizers, and we can use chemical fertilizers, like just the right amounts to have the production without, you know, killing the flora that we have. I mean, the bacteria that we have in the soil. I mean, they also you know, they also have a role in the plant being healthy and its production. So I think that using bio inoculants and chemical fertilizers will be a great way, as well as using, you know, not just one crop in the one area. You know, we should, for example, use integrated crops like olive trees with legumes, or you know, essential plants that will produce eventually essential oils. Those chemicals just work together. They will how can I say it? They will just get the right bacteria that will work in favor for the plant health, and then when we will have the crop and the amount of yield that we strive for, I think.
Okay, thank you very much, Muna, for your answer. So we have a question from Hamad Aliyu. Hamad says, if truly the government is serious, they can empower agricultural graduates, since they already have the passion to farm. Like myself here, I have very little capital and I want to expand my production. I think this is just a comment. So this is from a young scientist saying he has the passion, but the basic parameters from the government are not there to encourage him. So I have this question for Muna. So, Muna, in your own opinion, how do you think biotechnology is transforming agriculture in Africa?
Well, as I said before in my talk, like it's not really doing much because of the policies that do not help in the, you know, making biotechnology available for everyone. So, I mean, it's just that, as in my experience as a student and internships I've done, biotechnology is mainly done in the labs, and it's not really, you know, it's not done outside. But, you know, the research is done and the farmers can eventually benefit from it, like the low-tech biotechnologies such as breeding and you know, producing seeds that are let's say that they can be resistant or tolerant to some diseases. So those kind of technologies or products of technologies can be used by farmers, but it takes really like many years. For breeding, it can take from like 6 years to 10 to 15 years, depending on the crop that the scientists work on. For the seeds, it's really limiting, because like you will have to go back to the producer. The seeds you use this year will not give you, I mean, they will give you the plants, but eventually the seeds they will produce will not be as efficient as the ones you used for your crop.
Okay, thank you very much, Muna, for your comments. This question from Patrick Kimararungu says, hello, my question refers to Dr. Mother. From your experience, what can you say about biostimulants and biofertilizers adoption in Africa? I think this goes to Mehdi.
Mehdi.
Mehdi, are you there?
Yes.
Okay. So the question is, from your experience, what can you say about this?
For your question? I think that that biostimulants and biofertilizers could be adopted in Africa because those biostimulants will help us to deal with problems related to abiotic stress and low nutrient use efficiency, which are facing many agriculture systems in many countries in Africa. As you know, drought now is increasingly high in many countries in Africa and worldwide. So biostimulants and biofertilizers could be another solution to deal with these problems. And also I encourage to use biostimulants and biofertilizers developed from African resources, as we have all the elements to develop these products rather than importing them from companies from Europe or America. And I think that the university now is working in this, and we can see many projects with this aim to develop novel biostimulants from local resources.
Thank you very much for your comments, Mehdi. So we have another question from Sudashan Dutha, and the question is, what business entrepreneurship youths could plan with minimum investment after receiving graduate degree? I think that this will go to Mana. Yes, talking about entrepreneurship.
We can't give a general answer to that. So it depends on the knowledge, the skills that the candidate or the graduate student has. But here we can return back to the development of the extracurriculum activities. So through that, he will know what he will do in the near future after graduation. He will start building that while he was studying. So what to do maybe can be out of the study area. He can be studying. I have an example of my colleague who co-founded the society with me. He was a surveyor, a geometer topograph, and he started a company on production, on quinoa production. So, and this is due to his involvement and his implication in many extracurriculum program, where we get to know each others. So the first part was to build the team, then to know the crops. Now when you ask him about quinoa, he can give you details that I think I can't give you. So he is a surveyor, and now he turns to entrepreneur in agriculture. So this is very specific. We can have as many responses as we can. So it can not only be from the area of your study. It can be beyond that.
Thank you for that. And thank you for that. Okay. So okay. So we have another question from Koulibaly Ure Geneva. So many students in Africa don't like to study in agriculture, don't like to study agricultural sciences, because in Africa most of the farmers are very poor. Okay. I think it's highlighting the characteristics of farmers in Africa as discouraging youths from venturing into agriculture. Thank you, Koulibaly, for your comments. So we move on now to the next question from Renu Pandey. What is the major problem of agriculture in African countries? Is it soil fertility, average size of farm holding, non-availability of quality seeds and fertilizers, or any other? So I'll leave Karen and Toyib to answer this. Karen?
Yes. The major problems in agriculture is, as I said, it's a combination of many, depends from one country to another, depends from one region to another. But one thing I'm sure is, to some extent, yes, it's an issue of soil fertility, but but what I would say is that the big challenge is lack of, we don't have access to good quality seeds when you talk about farming, or we don't have access to technological platforms that we can utilize so that we are able to increase our efficiency. For instance, when you talk about plowing, we still use our donkeys, we still use our cows. So that means our efficiency comes down. When you talk about seeds, we still use our traditional seeds, meaning, of course, when you talk about the productivity, that will definitely be a low. So there are myriads of challenges that are affecting agriculture in African context. So, and these problems ranges from one country to another, one region. So it's a myriad of challenges that are combined together, but not one context. There's quite a lot of challenges that are facing the agriculture in our continent. So it's quite diverse. So to Renu, yes, there are quite a lot of challenges that we face. Though I will not call them problems. They are challenges because we will be able to overcome once we have a solution to that. Right?
Okay, thank you very much, Karen, for that. Toyib?
Thank you so much, Renu, for your good question. You have actually highlighted many of them, and Karen has also been able to highlight some of them. But since we already know the challenges, I will move into what we are doing or what we can do to solve this challenge, because we know what the challenges are. The discussion now should be what can we do to solve them. So with regards to soil fertility that you mentioned, I'm aware that one of the very, very current and recent discussion in Africa now is to have soil maps, conduct soil testing and have soil map. Morocco has successfully done that. There is FATI map in Morocco. I'm aware of the current discussion in Kenya too. They are in the process. They contracted it to a soil science firm. So we are moving to seeing that we have seen the importance of testing our soil to be able to recommend specific fertilizer recommendations for farmers. So that is that about soil fertility. In terms of farm holding, isn't it like, how do I say it now? Isn't it interesting to see that 80% of the food that we produce in Africa is from those small older farmers? So perhaps maybe the challenge is not the size, but the profitability of the farming itself. So maybe the question of social sustainability will come into it in terms of how do we ensure fair pricing of food, so that, like I said, the middlemen will not take all the profit from the farmers. How do we connect the farmer directly to those who would buy it from them, so that when they put in a lot of effort, they would also make profit out of it? So I guess that is just what I want to say. We already know what the challenges are. The question now should be, what are the innovative ways, the sustainable ways to solving them? Thank you so much for your question.
Thank you very much, Saib. And Renu, thank you so much for your question. With that, we'll be wrapping up this webinar. So Professor Bulif will be giving us a closing remark to wrap up the webinar.
Were very fruitful, informative, and instructive, and revealed the diverse challenges facing African agriculture. And I guess we can, there is great hope, despite of what has been said and expressed. I have recently been contacted to engineer contents for educational programs for agricultural high schools in Madagascar. And this initial project is intended to be generalized to Africa. And I remain optimistic in getting African youth interested in agriculture. Of course, we know agriculture is not a profitable activity, and that is known all over the world, even in America. Now, to bring the youth to be interested, we have to devise programs and ways and regulations in order to make it easy to the youth to get involved. Because it's not a question of profit. It's a question of involvement, dedication, and a pursuit of happiness in what you do. And we have to, and it's not when we say we, it's government's obligations. It is the obligation of different governments throughout the continent to address these questions seriously, because it deals with food security in the continent for today and the near future. And this is the reason why I am volunteering to present to your forum how Morocco has addressed this issue within the Green Morocco Plan. One of these days, when you like, based on the idea of public-private partnership, getting young farmers interested by proposing profitable packages to them. And this way, obviously, when the government is involved and putting its contributions on the table, many farmers, including the youth, are tempted to participate and to give their best to perform and produce enough food and supply the market. And as I have listened to your comments, basically we need to strengthen our curriculum at ESAFE with business courses for future agricultural operators. And yes, and it's not a question of a 2-year master, but when every professor tends to press in their disciplines, there is no room for that. But I'd like to, based on what I have heard today, and I have initially, that was the reason why I have introduced that modest and humble course. Maybe now this gives me the incentive to develop it and promote it and bring business men and women farming and operating in agriculture to talk to the students. Of course, we have Manal, but Manal is with us and all the time. But I'm planning on obviously to broaden the scope of the students. And I'm just happy that we have run into this virtual exchange with Texas A&M, with American students who are in the same situation, and that will give the chance to students of the FST and BAPS this coming quarter, this coming fall, to exchange with them and learn about those youth are looking at their farming practices and all that. And I have proposed topics to the professor on the other side of the Atlantic, topics, so that joint teams from UM6P, from ESAFE, will work together with teams from Texas A&M on those projects and confront their perceptions, their wishes, their knowledge, and that way we hope to develop those communication skills among our students and hopefully among the American youth also. But I still believe that this question of agriculture and getting youth involved lies with the various governments of the respective countries. And we can move all together as scientists, as professors, as students. We must have our voice to get heard. We must make our voice heard with those respective governments, including ours, and do not hesitate to give our advice and express our point of view and our wishes, how to see things moving on from here forward. And with this, I thank you again and congratulate you on this initiative for this forum. And maybe we'll bring some farmers to talk about these things. I think of 2 or 3 who will be willing to talk to us, to talk to you from Morocco. But I will be glad to have other farmers from Kenya, Cote d'Ivoire, Senegal, and Madagascar talking to us about their experience, because that's how we will need. That's how we can develop the needed expertise for Africa just by learning from one another, because I believe in learning by interaction. Just by looking at you, how you operate, that will give me ideas how to suggest something, that you do something different to improve your own system, and vice versa. We must listen. We must learn how to listen to each other. One of the activities that will be involved, that will be covered in that virtual exchange, is called active listening. How to listen to one another and to help one another. So I'm looking forward to this experience. And because we do not have enough students, we will invite some of our fresh alumni, like Karen, Toyib, and Mehdi Ghazwani, Manel, to contribute to this experience. Okay? And I will let you know, we are now in the negotiating phase. We have gotten approval for funding. That is the big news. We have known this last week. Now, with the professors on the other side of the Atlantic, we are working on the curricula, on the program, how we are going to go about that, about the synchronous sessions where the students can talk to each other, not only on the music and what they like and what do not like, what they do not like, but about specific topics of mutual interest to Africa and America. And then they can continue on exchanging with their peers in America freely through other channels. That's what we call the asynchronous activities. They can be free and allowed to talk to their peers at Texas A&M about other subjects. And that will be certainly fruitful, and that will contribute to personal development of youth on both sides of the Atlantic, hopefully. And I still think that we can draw a lot of positive things from this interaction, which is a program to last over 8 weeks with 2 hours synchronous activities each week. The rest will be up to the students. Okay. I think I have said what I needed to say, and I like to thank you very much for your initiatives, for your attention, and for your encouragement, because it is thanks to your encouragement and your interest that we get motivated to give the best of ourselves for our courses, for our teaching. And I hope that through this project we can have opportunities to go on field trips to farmers, to one of the farms nearby Casablanca that is already practicing agroecology, and that is owned by a senior veterinarian. This man is 74 years old and is a passionate of agriculture and agroecology. So he raises crops.
I guess the professor is having connection problem. Okay, I think with that we come to conclusion of today's program. On behalf of the ambassadors of SDG in School of Agriculture, Environment, and Fertilizer Science at Mohammed VI Polytechnic University, I say thank you to everyone who has made this program come to a success. We really appreciate your contributions. We appreciate our listeners. We appreciate our guests, and then we hope that subsequent events would be better than this. Thank you very much. Please stay safe. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.